continue this conversation. We're talking about the countdown to midterms, and I'm going to bring in my political panel. Greg Bluestein is here. He is a political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and an MSNBC political contributor. He is also the author of the book Flipped, okay? Mike Madrid is here. He is the co-founder of the Lincoln Project and a former political director of the California Republican Party. And Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha joins us. He is the founder and president of Solidarity Strategies and was a senior advisor to Bernie 2020. I've had run-ins with all three of y'all in various places. Used to work with Chuck, used to teach with Mike, and I have called up Greg Bluestein a number of times trying to get my candidate in a story. So it's great to have you all here. I want to start with Georgia. And before we get to the debate, I want to talk about the Carter Center, because they have actually agreed to send poll watchers to Fulton County. For folks that don't know at home, the Carter Center is founded by former President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind, and the group observes elections in countries with fragile democracies. Okay, Mike, America, we are in a fragile democracy. Is this what's needed now?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's exactly what's needed. I mean, I think it's a kind of wonderful arc of history here to see Jimmy Carter, who's recognized globally for the Carter Center's work on helping democracies that are in crisis. This is a sign that American democracy is in crisis. If we were looking at numbers where an entire political party was willing to overturn elections simply for partisan sake, in any other country, we would say that's just absurd. That country needs help. That's precisely where we're at in the moment. I think we will rise to meet that moment, but we should be under no false understanding that this is a very dire situation here in the United States. These elections need to be scrutinized. We need to see overseers. I wouldn't even mind bringing other people from outside, global oversights, to have the rest of the world watch what's happening here in the United States of America.
Well, I mean, Mike, on that point, everybody is watching Georgia. Greg, you are on the ground in Georgia. I do believe tomorrow night, Georgia Republican Governor Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams, his Democratic challenger, they're going to debate. You are the moderator. Brian Kemp leads Stacey Abrams in most of the polls, but and he's just over that mark that you need to avoid a runoff. Talk to us about the reality on the ground in this race, and can you give us a little preview of what we might get in that debate tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be a very important moment for Stacey Abrams' campaign. She's trailing in the polls, as you mentioned. Some polls show her back 3 or 4 points. Some polls show her back even a bigger margin. But either way, she and her aides still feel like she's well within striking distance of Governor Kemp. I imagine the governor wants to come out, just kind of tread water. He doesn't want to make any major mistakes. He just wants to basically survive the debate. But I think that Stacey Abrams will come out swinging. She's going to try to emphasize her support for issues like gun control, I should say, expanding Medicaid, abortion rights, reversing the state's 2019 law that restricts abortion rights. These are the issues she hopes will energize Democratic voters who in the polls so far, are giving her 45, 46%. But of course, she needs to narrow that gap with Governor Kemp.
I've talked to a lot of strategists, Greg, and they say that Stacey Abrams can close the gap. She is very much so still in this race. I'm wondering, as an objective election observer here, all things Georgia politics, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the biggest problems for Stacey Abrams is that Governor Kemp's support has been solid. He's consolidated the Republican Party support, even with Donald Trump's opposition earlier this year. And swing voters are, in some polls at least, are breaking towards him. While at the same time, a significant number of Kemp supporters are backing Senator Raphael Warnock against Herschel Walker. So if she can try to aim for those voters, either in the middle or, as she's been trying to do, energize the base, because she's at 80% in many polls among African-American voters, the most important Democratic constituency here in Georgia, she needs to get those numbers up to 90, 95, and she's doing everything she can to do that.
All right, 3 weeks to go. I want to talk about another governor's race. Michigan, okay? We talk a lot about election deniers. There's that Washington Post story that talked about nearly 300 election deniers that are on the ballot in November. The Michigan gubernatorial race has won in Tudor Dixon, and Tudor Dixon is the Trump-endorsed Republican nominee. She debated incumbent Governor Gretchen Whitmer this past week. It was the first time that two women met on the debate stage as in the gubernatorial debate in Michigan. And I want to play a bit of what she said about Michigan having a constitutional amendment on the ballot to enshrine abortion rights.
The governor doesn't have the choice to go around a judge or a constitutional amendment. She will lie to you tonight and tell you that the governor can do something about a constitutional amendment.
Mrs. Dixon is either woefully underinformed about the office she's running for, or she's lying to you. It's that simple. A governor will absolutely impact these rights. In fact, the only right abortion is still accessible in Michigan is because of my action.
Now, Governor Whitmer is talking about the lawsuit she filed that stopped Michigan's very extreme 1931 abortion law from being enforced. You know, Chuck, Governor Whitmer is ahead in the polls, but I remember when she appeared vulnerable coming into this election. Was abortion the game changer here, the Dobbs decision, or was it just a bad candidate in Tudor Dixon?
It's a combination of all three. She's done a really good job and run a good campaign. Then you had the Dobbs decision. If you've seen a lot of work that she's done, people don't talk about this, though, with black voters in Detroit, Latino voters. There's a big outside coalition that's been doing work there long term. Me and you, when we were early on in our careers doing strategist work, we told people you have to start early if you want to do this work. In Michigan, they did this work because they knew this would be a vulnerable Democratic seat for governor, because she barely won the last time. Michigan is a seat that goes back and forth in presidential years. And me and you both know, in an off-year election, less Democrats normally show up.
I have a member of my team was recently in Michigan, and when he came back, he said, there's road construction going on everywhere. I'm like, well, she's fixing the damn roads, it seems like. Before I let you guys go, gotta talk Pennsylvania, okay? And Michigan, and potentially Georgia, and I'm talking about President Obama. He is apparently going to campaign all across these places. He's visiting Georgia to stop for Raphael Warnock and Stacey Abrams. Greg, what do you know about the visit, and do you think he's going to truly affect voter turnout?
Yeah, it's a big moment, again, because it's in 2 weeks. It's right at a time when right before the last week of early voting here in Georgia. And just as I mentioned before, it helps energize African-American voters. It gives a jolt of attention to the campaigns at a time when they really need it. And for Senator Warnock, it's a safe space. You know, you heard in the debate with Herschel Walker the other day, he's not embracing Joe Biden. But Barack Obama gives him a candidate he can embrace in a major way. And I think he'll do that.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing it. Mike and Chuck have a podcast that I really hope people listen to, because I definitely glean some of my political conversation from that. And I hope people are reading Greg Bluestein in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It's where you get the real about what's happening in Georgia. Greg Bluestein, Mike Madrid, Chuck Rocha, thank you all very, very much.